KPAL News Time is 7:12. It's Acadiana's Morning News. Brandon Comeaux and Bernadette Lee here with you this morning. And joining us here in the studio is Carol Ross, which we certainly know who this woman is.
Let me tell you, it's like old times. I really miss you guys. I miss doing Winging It Wednesday.
I know.
But I want to tell you, you got a lot of listeners in District 8.
Oh.
That is awesome.
So have you walked the whole district now?
The entire district. May have missed one or two streets. We started early in June. I had some family business to take care of, and then as soon as that was finished, we got started. And we've been very fortunate. I've had some very good campaign workers, very dedicated volunteers. And boy, you really find out how good friends you have when they're willing to go walk with you in 100-degree heat. You know.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty amazing. So we've had, and it's actually, people say, "Are you tired?" I said, "No, I'm really energized. I'm really anxious to hear what happens tomorrow because as the candidate, people tell you what they think you want to hear.
Sure.
You know, and they're very kind and very nice and positive and all. And I just hope that that what I've heard is true. That people have a lot of confidence that what I will do is the right thing, basically the right thing, because we need that. We need to open up communication, I think, even more, and that's what door-to-door gives you. It really gives you that unfiltered feedback from the constituents, what their concerns are, and it really gives you a chance to get to meet them, and they feel that once they have that contact, they can call you and all, because people are very nice. They don't want to bother you and all that. But if they have a problem, they have to know that they can call you and get some response.
So, Carol, there are many issues that you've addressed here in this race, and I want to start off actually with one of them that you're the only candidate that I've heard so far talk about this, and this is addressing public safety. Now, you met with Lafayette Police Chief Jim Kraft and the Fire Chief Robert Benoit following the shooting the Grand, or before the shooting,
when I announced, in fact, I met with Chief Kraft before. But immediately after I announced, I went to speak to both of them to get an assessment of their needs, because I will be honest with you, if you do not have a safe community, nothing else can happen. I mean, if people do not feel safe in their homes or out in the streets walking, or, you know, our festivals and our fairs and our music, really, how can they feel? How can anything good happen? Business or culture or anything else? It's really ironic because when I was working in Vision Lafayette back in the 80s, we brought in, and we knew that one of our deficits back then was this wonderful culture we had that we needed to polish and really, really market it to bring in tourist dollars, et cetera. We brought in an expert. He was a world expert, Ralph Burgard, and he consulted all over the world. Just a wonderful man. And that's what he said. He walked around downtown, and this was before we did the redevelopment. And my husband, as you know, passed the legislation creating the Downtown Development District. And he said, if a community is not safe out in the streets, sitting on their porches, walking, congregating, et cetera, then you really can't have these kinds of public venues and public activities. You have to have a safe community first. That goes for everything else. It's the underpinning of everything we have. Well, that was before the shooting, and there were a lot of people who kind of looked at me like, why is she bringing up that? We're in a safe community. Well, we've seen what the awareness that has come since then, but what's been going on in some parts of our city has been going on for a long time. We need to pay attention to the entire city. Even though I'm in District 8 and I'm in a relatively affluent district, I know that, but there are needs all across this community.
So what did you learn from those meetings?
Well, I learned that, first of all, we saw from the night of the grand shooting how really well prepared our officers are. Are we slightly understaffed? There are always problems with staffing. You can never get that total staffing because the salaries are a challenge, and so we have to look at those salaries. These are the people who keep us safe, who keep our property protected, particularly the fire department. So we need to look at salaries. We need to look at training. I think that became very obvious that night. We have a really good training program. The chief has really emphasized that, and I think that's great. Outreach programs into the community, because we know that we need to do that for people. And I did compliment him. You see many, many times they'll have a suspect in custody within 24, 48, 72 hours. That's because the community trusts the police and will give them the information they need to solve these crimes. So that trust has to continue. We see that in public safety. We see that in every part of government. We don't have that underpinning of trust. It's really, really hard to move forward.
We're speaking with Carol Ross, candidate for Lafayette City Parish Council District, seat number 8. And, you talked about work that you did in the 80s. I want to get you to talk a little bit more about the experience that you have in this community, again, going back to the 80s as a small business owner, working with the local and civic organizations.
Well, it actually goes back to the 60s. Almost as soon as I got here, I started working at KPEL. And you know what happens when you work at a public entity like a radio station. You are really plugged into the community. You know that because you see it. Well, I did that for 21 years. So I got to know virtually every organization in the community, got to know the people, got to know the needs, and the great work that they do in this community. And I'll tell you that the nonprofit and for-profit private sector has made Lafayette, and we should never, ever forget that. It's not government that has made Lafayette. It's the private sector, and we should honor that by not overtaxing or overregulating them. But a lot of the organizations, I ended up being on the boards of directors because they thought I had a value to what I could bring. 232 Help, I served with them for 21 years. They just celebrated their 50th anniversary, and that was really a trip to go back in time with a lot of those people. 20 years on the UL Foundation Board of Trustees, a legacy member, longtime member of the Alumni Association, UL. Spent many happy years on campus, I must say, at least 10 of them, working part-time when KPEL was in the oil center. I used to ride my bike over to go to class. I'd work in the morning with George and then ride to class and then come back and work in the afternoon, so it was like a split shift. So that Better Business Bureau, we had some challenges at the Better Business Bureau back when I was on the board. I was on the board for about 6 years, and we got that turned around. So, the current executive director will tell you that story. I won't bore you with that one. Also, Chamber of Commerce, what was then the Chamber of Commerce, 6 years on that board. So you get, when you're in a public entity like a broadcasting or on a newspaper, I did work at the newspaper for a while as well. So I have that sort of broad experience, a broad understanding of the community and its needs. So when I came into this, and of course my husband had run for state representative, when I came into this, I knew exactly what I was doing. We walked door to door back then, in the summer heat. And so you understand the value of listening to people. In our business, you know that in advertising marketing, you first have to listen to the client, see what their needs are, and then craft sometimes in a very creative way, what the solution to those needs are. And I think I've proven that in this campaign, that I tend to think outside the box. I don't accept the conventional wisdom because it may be conventional, but often it's not wise. So I think asking questions is important. And I think but the underpinning is, a lot of people, you have a reputation. People see you in public and they know who you are, they think. But so much of government's business is done behind closed doors. And many of the decisions are made before it even becomes public. And that's where your representative's character comes in. Because not only do you want someone who can see the value in a proposition, they also be able to see the challenges, maybe the pitfalls, maybe the negatives, before it gets too far along. And we've seen many a good idea go awry because someone didn't ask the right questions.
Let me ask you, speaking about asking the right questions with traffic, for example, and thinking outside the box.
That's a big box to think outside of, but I think there are challenges.
Well, it's like, we all talk about the state being in the ditch.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we're in traffic, we're like, hey, it might be easier to travel through the ditch to get where we're going.
Well, that is something I did find out going door to door. It's a no-brainer. Everybody knows. But traffic is a symptom. And it's a symptom of a good thing.
Yeah, you're right, because
growth.
It is, the growth.
I swore back in the 80s I would never complain about traffic again, and I really haven't. I feel sorry for people who get stuck in their traffic. I really do, and we were out sign waving on College Saloon yesterday, and that's an example of what I see as a problem of lack of communication, lack of coordination. When that road was turned over, we exchanged, because the state has now a limitation on the number of miles within a municipality that they will accept, right, and they're actually trying to give up. So we traded. We got that new section of Ambassador in exchange for College Saloon in order to quote unquote fast track it. Let me think. How long ago was that? Almost 10 years, maybe. And here we are, and the folks out there are very upset, and they should be, because and I know the utility relocation takes a while, but why wasn't this done 5 years ago? Because my understanding, see, this is where the argument comes in. The people on the local side say, well, we had these needs and this problem and the other. The people on the state side who gave it over said, no, we gave them some money to fast track it when we did the exchange. So you hear all these stories, and what I'm trying to get right now is all the documents related to that trade-off, related to, the bids that went out, why they were delayed, et cetera. So that's what a representative really should do, find out, dig deep. Now we're finding out that the bid for construction probably won't even be let until late 2016. And in a public meeting the other day, a representative of the government flat out said, we ran out of money. Well, what happened to the money? This is the
state
problem.
gave us.
And so how can we go to the people and ask them for more taxes when we divert and we continue to divert funding from necessary projects to things that would be nice to have, but they're not critical to the material health and well-being of the people. And that's right now, that's traffic. We knew back in the 80s it was our arts and cultural economy that we needed to do something about. Now we know it's our infrastructure, that we cannot let it go. We have to do something about it. We are a parish-wide entity, and we have to look at it in the macro. Because if we cannot move people into Lafayette, City of Lafayette, into the parish, to do business, to work, et cetera, we are going to suffer economically.
Absolutely.
We depend heavily on sales taxes.
They'll just go somewhere else for their goods and services.
Correct. So we have to really concentrate on the basics right now, and that's what I'll be focused on.
Well, we are getting close to end of time. We always like to give the remaining 60 seconds to the person who is seeking the post to talk a little bit about what they want the voters and the listeners to know. Carol?
Well, when people ask you why did you decide to do that, I had some specific ideas in mind because I do think that I can bring to the table a perspective and an energy. Yes, a lot of energy. Well, Bernie and Brandon know that.
Yeah.
They've seen me over the years, so they know I have a lot of energy. I have the ability. And I think I have maybe just a little bit of wisdom to look beyond the headlines, to look beyond the surface issues and really dig deep. And understand that it's not government's money, it's the people's money. And we have to be able to reassure the people that we are doing the best with their money before we go back to them and ask them for any more money. And their taxes are not on the table for any of the candidates that I've heard so far, because my first issue of business will be a forensic audit, not because I think anything bad has been done, but all of this new administration, new people, new council people, we really need to drill deep into the numbers, see what our assets are, see what our challenges are, see what's really costing us the money. Is our funds being shored up in another area that should be in a specific area? We really need to get a deep understanding of how to better use our resources before we even think of asking the people for more money. There are ways to get this done. There are ways to focus on the needs. But the bottom line is people need to trust their council representative, that they will do the right thing for the people. And I believe I bring that to the table, that people, I think, do have an understanding that I will operate in the best interest of the people. And whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, you need to know that from your council member, that they will operate in your best interest, not the special interest. And I have, as you know, stood up to the special interests on occasion. And it may cost me in this election, but that's all right. The people are with me, I think. And I've heard so much good positive feedback, and it really energizes me.
Carol Ross, candidate for District 8 here at Lafayette City Parish Council, has been our guest. Carol, thank you so much.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of you at KPEL and the broadcast media, because without you, the people would not hear and not be able to understand who their candidates are and how important it is. Please go vote. And one more thing. When you go to the polls tomorrow, please bring a canned good or a staple, some kind of food, non-perishable food item with you. It's the Rotary Club's Election Day food drive.
It's a great idea. And the pantries can use it,
FoodNet always needs it. So it would be a great thing. So when you're doing your civic duty, do a little charitable work as well.
Yeah, the shelves have been they were emptied out a little bit earlier this year than they normally were.
Yes.
Yeah.
We faced some challenge. Those are the challenges I'm talking about. We haven't seen the bottom of this
not yet
oil downturn, so we have to be really careful stewards of the people's money.
Coming up now on 725.